Hey, folks. I'm in a very bad situation with my wife right now and I really need some help or some sort of advice about what to do because I'm totally lost. And I don't want to get carried away by my emotions, so I'm here to ask for an objective set of opinions. For context, my wife and I have been married for 2 years and together for 5. Susanna, 36F, and I, 38M, were introduced to each other by a couple of mutual friends and that's how we got together. In the beginning of our relationship, she was very independent and that's what I really liked about her. I wanted her to stay the same even after we got married, but I had no idea that she would have such a different interpretation of independence. So for the past couple of months, Susanna and I have been planning on taking a vacation because both of us were really exhausted from working and we really needed a break. We had decided that we would take a trip to California a couple of weeks ago, but I was unfortunately not able to go on the trip because my mother had a bit of an accident just 1 week before we were supposed to leave. My mom is in her 60s and has lived alone since my dad passed away a couple of years back. She was walking down the street when a car accidentally hit her and thankfully, she only fractured her ankle and sprained her wrists while trying to break the fall. Her insurance covered everything but obviously, she still needed somebody to stay with her and take care of her while she recovered. This incident took place just 1 week before we were supposed to leave for our vacation, so I told my wife that maybe we could cancel it for now so I could take care of my mother for the time being. My mother and I have always been really close and she's not a nightmare mother-in-law, I promise you that. She and my wife have in fact had a very good relationship in the past, so I don't know why Susanna was so against the idea of canceling the vacation so we could stay with mom and take care of her. According to my wife, she thought it was ridiculous of me to even suggest something like that because we had been planning this vacation for months and she had really been looking forward to having a break from all the work. She did not want to give that up just to look after my mother since I could just hire a full-time nurse to take care of her. Obviously, I could do that, but it would still look a little insensitive to just take off on vacation because my mother had been in an accident. And personally, I didn't even care about how it appeared to other people, I just really wanted to be there for her. I think, as her only son, it was pretty normal for me to want that. But she insisted that she had been working really hard for the past couple of months and she deserved this, and since it was not like my mother was in a really bad state, it was just minor injuries, she could handle it on her own. I argued that even if we did find a nurse, I would still want to be there for her and check up on her occasionally, and I wouldn't be able to do that if I left for our 2-week vacation. She was just not ready to listen to me after a while. She started saying that I was being selfish and a mama's boy because I was acting like this, prioritizing her over my wife. I found that very unfair because there were several occasions when I had made sacrifices for her and her family's sake and it seemed like she had just forgotten about all of it. And during the week leading up to the day that we were supposed to leave for our holiday, we were fighting literally every day, and eventually, 2 days before we were supposed to leave, she told me that she was going on the trip without me, and if I wanted to, I could join her later, but she thought that I was being unreasonable and she was not going to sacrifice her vacation for me. After she told me that, I did not speak to her because I didn't think I had anything left to say to her. It seemed like she had made up her mind and nothing I could say would be able to change that, so I did not want to waste my time. I was very upset about it, naturally, and I started spending more time at my mother's place to tell her what was going on. My mother, being the person that she is, told me that I was free to leave and she really wouldn't mind it. But I could tell that she was a bit upset that Susanna had not even visited her because she was fighting with me over this. She had always treated Susanna like her own daughter, and yet she did not even seem to care enough to visit my mom, even though she was fighting with me and not her. So these things started adding up, and on the day that she left for the vacation, she didn't even bother to say goodbye to me and just left. I was heartbroken and had no idea what to do. But after thinking about it for a couple of days, I decided to speak to a lawyer and file for a divorce because things have gone too far, and after something like this, I don't think I would ever be able to bounce back from that and look at her the same way again. It was a very difficult step, but I thought that it was necessary because she had made it very clear to me that she couldn't care less about my feelings. I even spoke to my mother about it, and she suggested that I should at least wait it out until Susanna comes back home, discuss things with her, and then file for a divorce if we are not able to come to a conclusion, but I did not want to wait that long. I was hurt by the fact that even after she had left, she hadn't even bothered to talk to me. So for the entire time that she was on vacation, I just kept waiting for her to come back so we could get this over with. And 2 days back, she finally returned, and she seemed to be very happy without me. I was at home since it was the weekend, and the second that she entered the house, she ignored me completely and went into the bedroom. I don't even know what that was about, but it just pissed me off even more, and I decided that I was not going to wait. I had to get this done that day. So after a while, when she came out from the room after freshening up, I brought out the divorce papers and handed it to her. I explained to her that what she had done, and the way she had behaved recently had hurt me really badly, and on top of that, she did not even seem to be sorry about it. So I had to make this incredibly difficult decision of leaving her because I don't think I would be able to make a marriage work if she didn't even care about my feelings. I think that really shocked her and she literally had no words for the first couple of seconds, and when she finally did, she started justifying what she had done and said that she had always been a very independent human being, and it was unfair of me to expect her to allow her to be tied down. She tried to tell me that sometimes, we would want very different things in life and that was fine. We just had to respect each other because that's how a marriage works, and right now, she was feeling like I was only throwing a tantrum because I could not respect what she wanted. But that was not the case at all. I had thought things through since I had enough time to do it, seeing how she did not bother to talk to me even once while she was gone. And I had literally no way to justify or defend her decisions, which is why I had to take this extreme step. Even then, Susanna could have just either apologized and ended it, or she could have just ignored the situation altogether like she had already been ignoring me for the past 2 weeks, but she decided to continue arguing with me and we ended up in a very horrible fight. She just kept trying to defend her decision and make it seem like I was overreacting, and I got so frustrated by the end of it I literally just started asking her to leave because I couldn't tolerate her anymore. So she packed up a few of her things and left the house, and presumably, she went to live in a hotel. That fight literally just made me more sure that I wanted to end this marriage because I couldn't deal with the fact that even after so much had happened, she still did not even think that it was necessary to apologize even once. Anyway, that was a couple of days ago, and this morning, Susanna called me up to ask me when she should come back home because she doesn't want to waste her money living in a hotel. I told her that I would rather not have her back home because I'm serious about getting the divorce, and she tried to start fighting with me once again, but I just hung up this time. After that, she texted me to apologize, but even then, she was trying to make it seem like she was sorry because I felt bad because she had done something wrong. In her message, she was saying stuff like, "I'm sorry that you felt bad because I went on the trip alone, but you should have always known that I was very independent right from the beginning. I don't want to sacrifice my individuality for the sake of our marriage, and neither should you expect me to, as a good husband." I knew that she was only apologizing because she wanted to come back home and I own the house, so I told her that I did not want her to come back. Then, she finally started crying on voice notes and calling me again and again. She can't believe that I'm doing this to her and thinks that I'm being very egoistic, but I'm honestly just trying to protect myself because she has hurt me more in the past few days than anybody else has in my entire life. And I can't have this happening again and again, so I think it's better for us to stay apart for now. I know for a fact that she doesn't really have anywhere else to go since her parents don't live here and she doesn't have a lot of friends who she can rely on, but I don't think that's my problem right now. After all, when I was feeling awful, she did not think it was her problem to deal with. So I'm just behaving the same way, but I still feel kind of guilty about what I'm doing because of all the voice notes that she has sent where she's crying and seems miserable, even though I know it's necessary for me and my mental health to keep her away right now. Ida, for telling my wife that I don't want her coming back home because she went on our vacation alone. Edit. So some more details about this situation for you guys to make sense of it all. We had paid for everything already and split the cost of it, but we did actually end up canceling it. We wouldn't really be running losses. I had already spoken to the airline and they had told me that if we cancel our tickets up to 5 days before we are supposed to leave, we are still going to get our refund, but with cancellation charges. And that was not a lot of money, so Susanna would have been fine with that. Plus the hotel that we had decided to stay in belonged to a relative of a friend, so we were already getting discounted rates, and I had spoken to him as well, and he had told me that usually, they don't really refund the rooms if they are not cancelled a week in advance, but for me, he could make an allowance for us. I had told Susanna about all of this before I had even suggested canceling the vacation because I didn't want her to worry about the money that we would be losing out on, but she didn't even bring that up, so I knew that this was not about the money. I had also mentioned certain sacrifices that I had made for the sake of her family in my original post, so I would just like to elaborate on that. A couple of years ago, I was supposed to attend my cousin's wedding and she and I were really close. We literally grew up together, but I decided to skip the wedding since my wife was flying out to see her family since her father had gallbladder surgery on the same day and she didn't even have to ask me to accompany her. I just went along because her family had treated me really well and I thought that it should be something I need to do not just for my wife, but also for her family. I don't think I was wrong to expect the same out of her. If I could skip my cousin's wedding to be with her for her dad's surgery, she could surely allow us to cancel our vacation and postpone the trip to some later date so I could be there for my mother who is pretty old and had just been in an accident. I have always been there for her family, and I have never even thought of myself as a great husband for doing that. I thought it was just my duty, but I'm guessing Susanna does not look at it the same way. I just think it's very unfair, and there is also the fact that she doesn't really seem to be sorry about anything. She just apologized when she realized that she didn't have any other place to go and living in a hotel would cost a lot of money. It's sad. Update 1. Okay, so unfortunately, the comment section here was not very helpful. Most people were divided. Some people even took the liberty of calling me a mama's boy just like Susanna had, and I would just like to defend myself on that point. If caring about your parents and trying to be there for them when they need you is something to be looked down upon, then I think that some people here need serious help. I had already made it clear in the beginning that it's not like my mother was some nightmare mother-in-law to Susanna, constantly trying to control her or something. I had mentioned that they have had a very good relationship in the past and my mom has always treated her like her own daughter, so it was natural for me to expect both of us to want to be there for her. And yes, the accident was not a major one, but she was still quite shaken up after that. Let's not forget that my mother is in her late 60s and even an accident like this can take a really long time to heal because of her age. We have been able to find a full-time nurse and she has been there with my mom, but for the 2 weeks that my wife was not here, I was visiting my mom every other day after work and I would stay with her until it was time for me to go back home. It was not for her sake as much as it was for mine because I already thought that I would have a breakdown if I went back to that empty home and realized that Susanna was not there. Even then, my mother did not have a single bad thing to say about my wife and instead, she kept convincing me to try to talk to her and said that I should think about things from her perspective as well before coming to a conclusion. So you see, my mother is obviously not the villain here like you guys are so desperate to make her out to be. And whereas my mother was trying to get us to reconcile, Susanna could hardly be bothered to reach out to me or even my mom to ask her how she was doing. In her head, my mother was the reason I was fighting with her and her behavior apparently had nothing to do with it, so she was the one who started villainizing my mother for no reason, just because I wanted to cancel or postpone a vacation so I could be there for her. I think anybody in my situation would have decided to end this marriage because as important as Susanna is to me, I cannot take this kind of disrespect. Not to me and definitely not to my family and my feelings. So I have decided to go through with the divorce, and I have also made up my mind that I'm not going to allow her to come back into my house or my life. My feelings were none of her business when she was hurting me, so I think it's fair enough for me to treat her the same way. I have spoken to my mother about this as well, and she has mixed feelings about all of this. On the one hand, she's really grateful to me that she means so much to me because not a lot of people would have sacrificed to stay with their injured mother, but I did and she was grateful for that. Her nurse would have just taken care of her because it was her job, but me being there with her gave her a sense of emotional support and she wasn't sure if she would have been able to cope with her situation as well as she did if I had just taken off on my vacation without thinking about her and how alone she would have felt. If she was able to walk and stuff, she would have just filled her time with going out on her own, visiting friends, and whatnot, but now that she had to stay confined to her bed, she would have been a lot more bored without me and she was happy that I had made this decision without even her having to ask me. On the other hand, she was really upset that this had so much drama between Susanna and me because that was really not her intention. She did not want to become a bone of contention between the two of us ever because she herself had not really been blessed with a good mother-in-law when she had been married to my dad and she wanted to be a better mother-in-law herself, but now she felt like she had failed at that. I had to convince her that this had nothing to do with her and everything to do with Susanna because I'm pretty sure that even if I myself had been injured, she probably would have had the same reaction. This is not the first time that Susanna has been selfish in our relationship and I'm just beginning to see that now. There has always been a pattern and I hadn't even realized it until this incident took place and opened my eyes to everything. In the past also, there have been several instances of her being incredibly selfish and always expecting me to make all the sacrifices. As I had mentioned, I had skipped my cousin's wedding to be there for her when her father was in surgery, but just 3 weeks after that, when I asked her to visit my cousin with me so we could at least give her the wedding gifts in person, she refused to accompany me because she thought that since my cousin did not have an issue with us not attending, it was not necessary for her to go out of her way to visit her and I could just go on my own. Then there was another incident just a couple of months ago when I had been thinking out loud, and I had asked Susanna if she thought it would be a good idea for me to quit my job and start my own business by the end of this year. I had been thinking about it for a really long time, but this was the first time that I decided to say it out loud. Not only did she get mad at my suggestion, but she gave me the cold shoulder and acted very distantly for the next couple of days until I told her that this was just an idea that I was throwing around and I hadn't decided on anything just yet. But from her reaction, I had already judged that she did not think it was a good idea to quit my job and I decided to respect that. Even though she could have put it in a polite way, she chose to act like I had committed a sin by even suggesting something like this. Her explanation for her behavior was that she has been working really hard as well and to think that I would even consider quitting my job and starting something of my own, knowing the risk it carries, was not something she was on board with, and that's why she might have overreacted because she really wanted us to save money for our future so we could retire quickly. And that's why I decided to put off starting my own business because she wanted to save money. But then, within a couple of weeks, she started telling me that she really wanted a vacation because she needed a break from work, and then, when I reminded her that she herself had said that she didn't think it was a good idea for us to spend too much money, she started going on and on about how this was different. It might have been a totally different situation, but in the past, I can only think about me making sacrifices for the sake of our marriage. She always just makes demands and gets away with it, and when she doesn't get her way, she still tries to put it on me and make me feel bad about everything. But I'm sorry. It can no longer go on like this, and I think I really need to put my foot down at this point. So I think I'm doing the right thing by getting divorced. She keeps texting me and sending me voice notes again and again, and I haven't blocked her yet, but I have muted her notifications so that I'm not tempted to read what she sent and allow that to get to me. Because I'm still pretty vulnerable and I know that it'll be very easy for her to manipulate me, so I don't even want to see her right now. She has a couple of weeks to respond to the divorce petition, so let's see where that goes. Update 2. So Susanna finally responded to my petition today, after almost 3 weeks since my last update. She is not contesting the divorce, which is not surprising because she hasn't bothered to text me for the past 2 weeks. I checked. What is surprising is the fact that she has a lot of demands, and I was not expecting that. Because all throughout our marriage, she has always insisted that she's a very independent woman, but I don't see the independence here right now. First and foremost, she is demanding a ridiculous amount as a settlement, and she's also demanding alimony, which doesn't make sense to me because we have the same kind of income. So I don't understand why she thinks she would be entitled to alimony. Along with that, she's also demanding that we sell the house and split the amount of money we get, which is the most nonsensical part of her petition, because I think I have mentioned in the past that the house belongs to me. Earlier, it used to belong to my uncle, but he left it to me in his will, so I've been living here for a really long time, since before I even met Susanna. She has absolutely no claims on this house, and that's what really pissed me off because she knows about all of this. There are also a lot of other things, but this is majorly what annoyed me about her petition. I had half a mind to contact her and ask her what she was playing at, but my lawyer advised me against it because that would probably just give her leverage against me. And she definitely desperately needs that right now, because I have spoken to a lot of my friends about this and most of them are on my side here. I have also discussed the petition with my mother, and she is very disappointed by how the situation with Susanna has turned out to be. Truth be told, I feel the same way because, in the past, I would have said that she was selfish, but I never really thought that she was capable of being so greedy. I don't really want to use that term, but I think she's being a bit of a gold digger right now because I don't think it's fair for her to demand so much in her petition. It's not like I ever treated her badly and we could just end this marriage without turning it into something ugly, but I don't think she's on board for that. Ultimately, we are going to have to fight it out in mediation, and I'm just hoping that we are able to come to terms that are agreeable for both of us, because this petition right now is not something that I agree with, and I'm gonna make sure that I don't have to do any of this because it's simply not fair. Update 3. Hey, so I've been really busy for the past couple of months, which is why there have been no updates. But finally, I have a bit of free time right now, so I will fill you guys in real quick. The divorce proceedings are still ongoing, but the tide is in my favor, so it's all good. I have been able to get my soon-to-be ex-wife Susanna to agree to most of my terms and bring her on the same page, but she is still holding out on the house. That is not something that I'm worried about, to be honest. The house belongs to me, I decide what happens with it, and I think it will be resolved by the next session. But for now, I'm just celebrating the fact that soon enough, I will be done with all of this. My mom is also a lot better now and can move around. I'm having a physiotherapist take a look at her and help her out every weekend with some light exercise so she can be back on her feet soon enough. And last month, I also quit my job and I will be starting my new business in a couple of weeks. It was in the works for quite some time because I needed something to keep me occupied during the initial stages of my divorce, since I was pretty torn up about it. So I started working on my business model, and I spoke to a couple of my friends who were interested, and they came on board as partners. We also got our family members to invest, and soon enough, we will be in business. I'm really excited about it because I think it's the perfect time for a fresh start. Susanna and I have not spoken to each other in person since the mediation session started, and we only talk to each other through our lawyers. Personally, I'm more than fine with it. She has tried to reach out several times, but I'm really not interested. At this point, I don't even care if what happened in the past was right or wrong or whatever. I just want to move on with my life now. I have a business in the works, my family is there for me, and so are my friends, and that's really all that one needs to be happy in life. Of course, I do wish that there was some way that things could have worked out with Susanna, since I really did love her, and I guess I still do somewhere deep down, but love is obviously not enough to make a marriage work. It takes hard work and sacrifice, and it can't be just a one-way street. But I have made my peace with the situation now, and from this point onwards, I'm just going to think about the future and not live in the past anymore.